once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin and I'm here tonight with Justin. Justin, wacka wacka.
Hey.
Kai Havertz scores again. So
Yes, he does.
that was first, before we go into it, actually, you want to tell me about what happened with your new bikes in Amsterdam?
Oh, sure. I wish I could make the stories funnier, but yeah, so, as most of the listeners know, we've been here roughly about 2 weeks now, I think. And my wife and I already had bikes, but we decided not to go with a car purchase. So we needed like a cargo bike. You're familiar with these. They've got like the big buckets in the front.
Yeah, so you can carry all your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've had it for about 5 days. Really nice bike. And I guess we're basically officially Dutch now because my wife walked outside to take my son to school yesterday morning. And of course, it was stolen. Of course, we have bike insurance on the other two bikes, but not this one, which is great. And we couldn't have done anything more. It had a wheel lock. It had a chain lock. We took the battery out of it because, all these are like electric hybrid. We took the battery out of it. It's still sitting on our kitchen table. I don't know what more we could have done to prevent theft other than having like, hanging like an Apple AirTag on it or whatever. But it's been pretty annoying. My wife already spent a few thousand on another cargo bike, which is, just great. I enjoy that very much. But you need it. You know what I mean? Like we can't even go to like a grocery store, without. So it's kind of just part of it. But yeah, real nice introduction here, Dutchies. So well, thank you.
It's nice to know you're officially a local now.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right. Well, on to the game on Sunday. I think that this is the best performance we've had under Arteta. I think there's been games where we've looked good going forward, looked good at the back. There's been games we've controlled quite well. I thought Sunday was absolutely the complete performance. We dominated in every single facet of the game. I believe every single player had a passing percentage over 90%. At half time we were 15 shots to 0. It was just a complete dominating performance, Juz.
No, I love to see it, Gav. And we were just chatting right before we hit record, and I mean, man, that right side was just like cooking all night. The Ben not Ben White. Ben White, but the Odegaard and Saka combinations were just like insane all night. I mean, this is a game where we easily could have had 7 probably.
Yeah. I mean, this was a 4 or 5-0 game for sure. I mean, it was complete domination. We missed some chances, but we created a lot. And I think, we were a bit worried about the start of the season, weren't we, when we really weren't creating. And we knew it was going to take some time, but we really weren't creating anything. And I think what we're seeing now over the last few weeks, and I'm including the defeat to Villa in this, by the way, because I thought we were excellent that day as well. I really think this is coming to fruition now, and someone is going to get a beating off of this team really soon, because at some point it is going to click. At the minute, things are just going a foot wide of the post. They're hitting the goalkeeper. That is going to change.
Let's hope it's Liverpool.
Yeah, but, I mean, I've got to say, this is the most confident I've been going to Anfield since probably 2005.
Yeah, I agree. I feel pretty good about it. I think was it you that was just talking about Liverpool being very reliant on Salah, or was that somebody else? Is that a conversation?
Yeah, I think in attack they are incredibly reliant. Yeah. I'll tell you what started it off. There was another podcast I was listening to, and someone said on there they were comparing our options to Liverpool's and saying that we basically were unfavourable compared to them. They've got Jota and Gakpo to bring off the bench. Well, I'm telling you right now, I do not believe that Jota and Gakpo are better than Trossard and Nelson. I just don't. I don't believe they're better players. I think Liverpool are very, very heavily reliant on Mo Salah. I don't think I would take Eddie Nketiah over Darwin Núñez. I just don't think that they are that good. I think they are incredibly reliant on Mo Salah. I think Szoboszlai has been a good player for them. I think he looks good. I don't rate Alexis McAllister. I know we're on opposite ends of the spectrum on this, but I don't rate Alexis McAllister. I think Liverpool are a decent side. I don't think they're even close to our ceiling, and I don't believe they have the options that we've got, despite what I heard the other day. I just don't see it. I don't see how you can look at Cody Gakpo and Jota and see better players than Trossard and Nelson.
Oh, it's a lot to unpack there. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of Gakpo, especially for the Dutch national team and whatnot. I think he's a phenomenal player. I would have loved to have had him.
See, we're on complete opposites on that as well, because I don't think he's very good at all. I really don't. I think he's a bang average player.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I think Trossard's a really good player as well, but I'd put him about equal. But I'd take both of those guys over Nelson, of course. So.
I'd take Nelson over. I don't like Jota either. Jota kills us every time, which probably makes me hate him more. But I think he scored 3 goals in 40 games or something, probably all against us.
How many does Nelson have?
1 against Bournemouth. That's all I care about.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's fair. That was a moment.
But Jota plays a lot of games when he's not injured. Nelson doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Nelson plays 5 minutes here and there. So I don't think that's a fair comparison. But every time Nelson comes on, he does something, he looks dangerous. I just don't see that with the Liverpool guys when they come on.
Man, I mean, I feel like I do. I feel like I see Jota and Gakpo come on and look very dangerous, even if they're not getting the goals. But, I mean, to each their own, Gav. I know Jota's kind of mid 20s now, but Gakpo's 22? I think.
I'm not sure how old Gakpo is actually. I can tell you.
I think there's still a lot to come from him. I mean, Reece is already 24.
He's 20. Gakpo's 24.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, okay. So I guess it's 24. Closer than I thought, but
yeah, he's actually probably a similar age to Nelson. Because he was born in May. So when was Nelson born? I bet they're not far apart. Both born in yeah. So they're basically the same age.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think either way. I think I hate those combined 11s, but I do think Liverpool might have the I don't know. Going through player by player, I mean, it is pretty tough to say. I mean, even Salah versus Saka. I mean. I'm picking Saka every game.
I think the only position that they are clear of us in is in goal. I think that is the only position you can look at a Liverpool player and say, well, that player walks into the Arsenal team, 100%. I think that's the only. I think you can argue about the rest of the side, about who's better than who, but I think the goalkeeper is the only one. And I mean, you could say Van Dijk, but I'm not sure I would agree with that. I certainly wouldn't take him above Saliba. And Gabriel, maybe he's better than Gabriel.
Yeah, maybe Gabriel. I probably would. He was a little rough last year, but he had that major knee injury. Yeah. I think he's coming back to his best. I would probably take him, and I might take Trent over Ben White too. I think Ben White's better defensively, but I like what Trent.
But that's close, right? I don't think.
Yeah, that's close.
I don't think the other side's close. I think Zinchenko is well clear of anything they've got there. Declan Rice obviously walks in, right? And then I think the other positions are probably reasonably. Odegaard obviously walks in over Szoboszlai or McAllister.
Yeah, I take Odegaard over him. Yeah.
So I think the other ones, I think you can argue. I don't think we're miles better than them, but I do think we are better than them from a ceiling point of view.
Let's go ahead and fight about this then. I'd probably take. I don't know. I don't even care. McAllister, Gakpo, or Szoboszlai over Havertz in the left 8.
No chance.
Yeah,
no chance. To me, Havertz is now one of the first names on our team sheet. Now, I think the way we played yesterday, I don't think we could do that without Havertz. I think this is a completely different team to last season, and I think Havertz is absolutely key to what's going to happen here. He's the way he works off the ball, the way he crashes space. I just think it's exceptional. I said a couple of weeks ago, right, that I thought he was a poor man's David Platt, and I'm absolutely standing by that. The timing of his runs is absolute perfection. And I'm telling you now, that's 3 goals in the last 4 games. He is going to end this season with 15 goals. I'm telling you now, he is. He's absolutely. He's never going to be. He's not Martin Odegaard, right? He's a low touch player. I think he had like 30 touches in the game, or 30 passes in the game on Sunday. So he's never going to be that high touch player, and he's just not. We misunderstood what he was, right? And then I didn't know what he was. Now I know what he is, and I can see it. And that is where my attitude on him has changed. I never wrote him off, but I did think that it was looking like it wasn't going to work. But now I can see what he is. I think it's taken time for people to adjust around him, and I think it's taken time for him to adjust to everybody else. And honestly, mate, I thought he was absolutely sensational again on Sunday. I think every game has been his best game in an Arsenal shirt. We were starting from a very low bar. That's true. But I thought he was sensational on Sunday, and I think you can really see where this team is going now. And I think Havertz is going to be a magnificent player for us. I've come around on that completely.
Well, I mean, listen, I hope so, and I do see the improvement. I do see more cohesion. I see more confidence in the player himself. The goals don't hurt. When I saw him get that, kind of breakthrough with the Brighton defense and the goalie started coming out, I was like, I didn't back him to score it, but he finished quite nicely.
Well, he'd missed a gilt edge chance just before that, the one that he headed over the bar from a free header. And you start thinking, oh God, is it not going to be our day? When you're missing all them chances. But that goal he took really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't argue with that. I like that the man rescues donkeys as well. I think that's super endearing.
I think he's always going to be Robin and not Batman. Like I think you have to understand that with him, and you have to understand that what he does is more for the team than for himself. And we've got a lot of players like that, by the way. A lot of players sacrifice themselves for the team. You can say that about Jesus for sure. You can say that about Gabriel Martinelli, possibly more than anybody sacrifice himself for the team. And I think Kai Havertz is in the same boat. He understands that role is to be a low touch player that arrives in the box and makes those driving runs. And he does a lot of off the ball work. He's also our chief fouler. I don't know if you've noticed this, but he gives away more fouls than anybody else. He is the tactical foul master, which is why he's on 4 bookings. Only Arteta's got the same amount of bookings. But he's the one that breaks the play up. He's the one that makes the foul. And I think the way we're playing now, Odegaard is playing so much deeper than he was last season. I mean, there are times when he's coming into the back line to receive the ball, and it's a consequence of the way the team's rotated around. A big part of it, obviously, is Declan Rice. So with Declan Rice being there, we all know Declan Rice's skill set, and we also know what isn't his skill set, right? So we don't have Thomas Partey sucking 3 players onto him and then playing that pass. We just don't have that now. So Odegaard's the man who's coming back, and we're just attacking in a different way. It's slower, it's more methodical, and it's more about picking passes rather than drawing players on and going over the top. And by the way, part of that is that teams aren't coming out against us the way they were because we're good now.
Yeah. It's interesting you said that about Declan Rice too, because I wanted to bring that up. He's been doing it for a bit, but I noticed it a little heavier in this game. Is that he's not sucking in those players, but man, he's still capable of going on just a crazy run
Those
through
runs.
midfield. And
Oh my God,
I mean,
those
it's
driving
insane.
runs.
Mate. It's insane. I love to see it, and he looks so. He's always got like a big ass smile on his face, just running through midfield.
His range of passing has definitely improved since he signed, right? And I think this is a testament to him. The team as a whole, tactically, I think it might not be at its apex, but it's on the way up. I think it's definitely starting to click more. But his passing, the way he plays these flat passes out to either wing, right, left or right, whether it's to Martinelli or Saka, and he's basically the only one who plays the quick switch. Do you know what I mean? Because no one else does it. Odegaard likes to come inside, control the ball, have the ball at his feet, and pick the passes out. Gabriel maybe every now and again will hit a long raking ball, but no one else really does it. Everyone else, it's very much in short triangles. Rice will drive and then ping that ball 30 yards with a really flat trajectory. And that's something that he's added, I think, since August. That wasn't in his game when he arrived.
Yeah, and the vision is really impressive too. I mean, I've made note of 5 or 6 of them this season that have been pretty much brilliant. Almost releasing the player on the shoulder of the defender. He's really good at what he does, and the fact that he can. I think we spoke on this pod, months and months ago now, but there's very few midfielders that could do what Thomas Partey did, right? We said that when we were talking about.
Yeah, he's a unicorn. He's a unicorn. 100%.
Yeah, but I mean, we've got pretty much a player that can do almost everything Thomas Partey can. Some things better, some things worse, but I mean.
You know what we called for, I think, at the end of last season when Partey fell apart again in March, I think what we called for was a different way of doing it, right? Because we knew that you can't replace Partey like for like because there's no one else like him. No one else does what he does. But he was so inconsistent and he's so injury prone that we had to find a different way of doing it because we kept falling apart when he wasn't on it or when he wasn't there. We had to find a different way of doing it. I think that's what we've done here. I think we've just found a different way to do it. So Rice has come in and he doesn't do the same things Partey does, but we've just worked a different way to get the ball further up the pitch. It's a little bit slower. It's a little bit more methodical, but it's no less effective.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, like I said, I mean, they do have different strengths and weaknesses, but we are able to play a similar way, if not the same. And I just think it's working brilliantly. And I'd honestly, I'd love to see what Partey looks like in the side as well next to these two. But I mean, I guess if Havertz keeps scoring, we may not see that. But
see, I'm interested in this. I think that ship has probably sailed now. And I think the biggest reason isn't Kai Havertz. I think the biggest reason is Declan Rice. I think it would be absolute insanity to move Rice out of that 6 now. I don't care if you're pushing him into 8 or whatever. I think it would be absolute insanity to move Declan Rice. That is his position now. That will be his position for the next 8 years. And I just don't think you move that. I don't think Partey is capable of playing the 8. We saw it when he first signed, when he spent 6 months trying to be Michel Platini. And it was fucking abysmal until we moved him back into that pivot. I mean, honestly, people forget how bad Partey was for that first 6 to 8 months when he signed, when he was basically trying to play like a number 10. And it just wasn't working. That's when he kept shooting, hitting the top tier of the stands. It wasn't until we moved him back into that single pivot. I just think we've moved beyond that now as a team. I think the evolution of this team, it's constantly evolving, right? Like Arteta is someone that constantly evolves the team. And I just think we've moved beyond Partey in that single pivot role.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I would say for as many pros as Partey has, Rice kind of, he's more cover and we know he's going to be available more often, Yeah,
and I just think the team functions better with him. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I think if you were to put them side by side, I think Thomas Partey is probably the better pure footballer. I don't know that it'll always be that way, just because of the way Declan Rice seems to be able to add different strings to his bow at a moment's notice.
It does seem that way, yeah.
But I think if you stuck them next to each other, I think Thomas Partey is probably the better technical footballer. But this team functions better with Declan Rice at the base, and the power that he has, the character that he has, the ability to nick the ball without committing fouls is something we haven't really seen before. I mean, it's almost Vieira-like, the way the leg just comes out and takes the ball and retains possession. It's something to see. I mean, to this point, Juz, to this point in the season, I think Declan Rice is Footballer of the Year. If we go on and win the title, it may well be that Odegaard supplants him in that. Because Odegaard yesterday that is as good an individual performance, I think, as I've ever seen. Odegaard was absolutely sensational yesterday. And I think if we're going to win the title, he's going to have to perform like that most of the time. So I do think that by the end of the season, you may see Odegaard be the one that wins a Footballer of the Year. But I think to this point, it's Declan Rice, and I don't think anyone else is particularly close to him.
I think at this point in the season, he's been the most important player on the team. I think he's had the biggest impact. And I think that kind of player, if the team does, win the title or whatever, kind of deserves it. But yeah, I definitely see. I mean, the
parallels between Rice and Roy Keane. I think I've said this to you guys before. I said to you months ago, I thought he could be our Roy Keane. And I just see that Roy Keane came into Manchester United and he made Manchester United just click immediately. And Rice has done something similar. And I just see the same leadership qualities, maybe without being as much of a dick.
Right, yeah.
But
he seems a real nice guy.
The impact, the on the pitch impact is very, very similar, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. And I think you and I had this discussion as well on a previous pod. There was no other player we could have signed that would come in and just immediately have an impact and hit the ground running. I mean, that's exactly what we got. And that's why
have you been surprised by how good he's been? I mean, I don't know. I was expecting this. I don't know that I was expecting it at this level. I mean, I said to you before that he just doesn't have sixes. Do you know what I mean? Every game is a 7 or an 8. But every game's been a 8.5 to 9.5. He's not even had any 7s. Yeah.
I mean, I was surprised at first, but I've really kind of started to think about it. I mean, he was always head and shoulders, West Ham's best player. And I think if he had a little bit better, surrounding players, we could have maybe seen some more of this stuff from Rice earlier. But I think putting him in a team where he's got runners, where he's got intelligent players that know how to create space and make runs. I mean, I think he's loving it. I mean,
I think that's the key as well. The way he's adapted because he said himself that he found it difficult when he first arrived because tactically, it's a completely different way of thinking about the game. He said himself he was learning something new in training every day. Because it's so different. But the way he's taken to it is amazing, and he just like we said, he just seems to add something different every week. Whether it's that flat pass that we didn't see out to both wings, his left foot seems to be getting better, and he's spending more and more time in the final third. I think a third of his touches yesterday were in the final, or Sunday were in the final third, and his progressive passes. I mean, he's playing those line breaking passes now, not quite the same way that Partey was, but he's still playing them.
Yeah, I don't think anything came of it necessarily, but he had that one run against Brighton where he was like all the way. He was like
he had a couple of really strong galloping runs. He had the one where the goalkeeper made the save when he'd come from the left.
Yep.
Is that the one you're talking about, or the one where he?
Yeah, he was like all the way. He was like left midfield, but all the way where like your winger or left back would be, and just made that run. And I mean that kind of stuff. It's great. He's popping up all over. He's confident, powerful. We needed that powerful leadership in like kind of the Xhaka power vacuum that existed. Now I don't think we could have replace that player. I know it's a different position, but I feel like we really did a good job replacing that the like mental qualities of Xhaka in this player in Rice now.
Yeah, I think, and that's key as well. I think the belief that this team has, I think it really emanates from him and from Odegaard in particular. Those two are the absolute heartbeat of this team. And I think when you get days like yesterday, it all clicks. I mean, I'm not going to say this is a concern, but I do feel like Martinelli's output is way down on what it was last season. And it was a funny one yesterday because I thought he actually played okay. He was very isolated out on that left-hand side, which is kind of how you like it a lot of the time. His corners were amazing. I mean, his corners.
Yeah, his corners.
One was bang on point. I mean, how we didn't score from a couple of them, I'll never know. But that end product isn't there at the minute, and I think that is a little bit of a concern. Smith Rowe coming on late, mate, and nearly getting a goal. I wouldn't be averse to seeing, and not at Anfield, obviously, but over the next few weeks, I wouldn't be averse to seeing going back and Smith Rowe taking over out wide left for a couple of games, just to a little bit of a change from Martinelli, because like I said, I just don't think the end product's been there for him this season.
It is really weird that it does kind of seem like Smith Rowe is just an attacking midfielder now. It seems like he's not even considered for the wings. I mean, you remember he used to be one of the first off the bench.
I think the introduction of Trossard probably ended that, right? Yeah. But then I think there's an argument as well that Trossard, he's not been playing that well. I don't think anyone can say that he has. But there is an argument as well that Trossard's best work doesn't come from wide, that Trossard's best work comes from a more central area.
I mean, I think I agree with you 100%, especially in the false nine. I don't think he's the positions or the times he's played left 8. I think has been
that hasn't worked. I don't think.
Yeah, it's been very circumstantial. Like when we know we're going to have all the ball in the opposing half, that's when he's played left 8. And he's done fine in those situations, but those aren't happening every week or anything. But yeah, I agree. I think Trossard's best games have been in the false nine when Jesus was hurt last year. I thought he did really well. But yeah, I'd love to see Smith Rowe coming in. I mean, he's going to need to get the stamina and rhythm back and stuff like that. If he could get some minutes at the end, coming on for Martinelli at 65 minutes or something like that,
I think that's what we need to see, right? We need to see him coming on a little bit earlier, and seeing what happens. All right, well, let's switch away from the game and the performance a bit, because I think we've kind of really picked most of the big parts out of it. We're obviously, the transfer window's coming up. There was a crazy rumor that went round on Friday, and it made me laugh a lot. Dominic Solanke. We are not signing Dominic Solanke, right? I think this rumor reminds me so much of the Ryan Fraser one. Do you remember when Ryan?
I remember that.
All agent trying to get a better deal for a player, blah blah blah. All agent, and this reminds me of that a lot. There is no way we are signing Dominic Solanke.
He's worse than Eddie.
Far worse than Eddie.
Yeah, far worse
than Eddie.
So no, it makes no sense at all. And he's a young English kid. He costs probably 40 million, the same we're asking for Eddie. No, there's no way. It's
no. Eddie isn't going anywhere in January. I don't care if someone offers 40 million. I wouldn't take it either. Eddie's going nowhere in January, and there is no way we're bringing someone like Solanke in.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't think so. There's already some stuff about Osimhen as well. That's all press. It's press.
The one thing on Osimhen signing a new deal at Napoli, apparently it's going to have a 130 million euro release clause, which is basically it's firming up a gentleman's agreement for him to leave in the summer, is what it seems like. This basically just puts a price on it, and that's what it's going to be. I don't know whether we would actually trigger that or not, because when you trigger these release clauses, it has to be cash up front, and I'm not sure we've got 130 million laying around to pay out in cash. I'm a little bit worried about his injury record, Juz. I know you said that he'd had 2 big injuries, but if you look at his record, there's a lot of muscle injuries on there as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we've lived through the Thomas Partey experience, right? And I think we can all agree to this point, the Declan Rice experience is a lot better because he plays every game. I would be a little bit worried about Osimhen with those injury problems.
Yeah, I think at the time he was coming off a cheek fracture.
That's right.
He
wears that cool fucking mask.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, you're right. The muscle injuries are kind of starting to stack up. It doesn't really look like much long term. But yeah, he's out for 2 weeks pretty often, with just little niggles and pulls.
That is a worry. And because honestly, if Jesus could stay fit, then I don't think we necessarily need an upgrade. I think we could be set for a few years, but he just hasn't proved he can stay fit yet either.
Well, I think something that's interesting about Jesus is that his ability to play left wing striker, right wing as well. I mean, he'd still
Yes.
probably start most games, just kind of moved around.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it would
think
probably, let's be fair, it would probably be Martinelli on the bench.
probably, yep, yeah, I think so, especially right now. But I think between the money, it being a release clause, having to be paid up front, his injury record, and the fact that Chelsea and United are probably both going to be looking at strikers. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't see it.
No, I mean, I do think it's a possibility. I'm just not sure that I really want that with like I said, with the injury history, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's not like his goal scoring record is Erling Haaland, right? I mean, he's a good player and he's a decent goal scorer, but I don't know that it's worth that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what makes him so much more valuable is how small the elite striker market is right
Yeah,
now.
I agree. I agree with that.
There's like 4 elite strikers under 30. I'm not going to name them because I just said that number off the top of my head, but I mean, there's very few, is what I mean. And
But I just think that means you don't need one. Do you know what I mean?
maybe,
Like
yeah,
Liverpool never had one. I mean, even Real Madrid, you can talk about Benzema all you like. Benzema was never an elite striker. He had one exceptional season at 34. Other than that, he was just a good striker playing in an excellent team. I don't think you need an elite striker. I think Gabriel Jesus is perfectly fine for that role if he can stay fit. I mean, he's been awesome when he's been fit this season, Jesus. Again, on Sunday, he was brilliant again. I don't think we can play the way it would need another evolution of style, which is definitely possible because Arteta likes to change the style. But I do think replacing Gabriel Jesus is a bigger task than people think. It's not just take him out, plop Erling Haaland Mark II in there, and watch 100 goals go in. That's not how this would work.
yeah. I mean, look how City struggled initially with Holland. You know what I mean? I mean, they still did well, but I mean, it's because they're an elite.
You'll figure it out when you got
Yeah.
a player like that. You will figure it out. There's no doubt you're going to figure it out. But it's not just as simple as that, and it affects everything else. I mean, everyone else at Man City scores less goals. You're not just adding 30 goals. You're taking them away from somewhere else.
Yep. Yeah, that's actually a really good point that I feel like people don't always see. But real quick, I know we're close on time, but let's go ahead and shut this down as well. Ivan Toney.
I don't see Ivan Toney. I mean, I don't want it personally. I don't think he's better than Eddie Nketiah. For a start, I think he's incredibly overrated. Again, Arsenal fans are the ones that are desperate for Ivan Toney, are focusing on his strengths and completely ignoring all his weaknesses. And I think when you look at Eddie, people are doing the exact opposite because we've got him. They're and he's passed for Kai Havertz's goal, by the way, yesterday. What a pass that was! Or something.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a fantastic pass. He drew the defender in, played the pass at the right time. That's great stuff. So I don't see Toney happening. I certainly don't see Brentford agreeing to another loan deal.
No way they loan. I think they're gonna want to cut their losses, or if they want to cut their losses, I should say, they're gonna want a huge. I mean, he's gonna be dumb expensive for a
for a 28-year-old player that scores mostly penalties. I don't see it. Like I really don't.
Same. I don't either. Yeah, and I hope it doesn't happen. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't think it will. All right, mate. Well, let's leave it there for today. We'll be back probably on Friday to preview the Liverpool game. Just make sure your bikes are locked up, will you, mate?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll double check after this.
Yeah. Maybe like double chain them up this time.
I'm actually thinking about that legitimately.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Okay, mate. Well, on your bike, and we'll talk again on Friday.
All right, mate. Have a good night
Good
or
night.
morning.
Bye,
actually.
everybody.
Yeah.